Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I decided to do a 420 today. I haven't did a 420 in a long time. Originally, this was going to be on this kind of existential talk. Early on, in one of the other videos I did, and I kind of regret doing it, but I wanted to get across this idea of how I perceive the stuff that goes on in regards to online media, content, interactions in that way. And I was going into this idea of this game, nothing matters. Some of the people were kind of commenting on that particular thing of saying nothing matters and everything else, this kind of nihilism. And going into this idea of nihilism and what that means from different contexts. There's not just one way of seeing the world. There are plenty of different ways of seeing the world and viewing things. I view things in multiple ways all the time. So I may say nothing matters, looking at it from a physical matter universe, corporeal existence. And if nothing else is out there, nothing else is out there, it's just the void, then essentially everything is utterly meaningless. Now, contrary to that, if everything is utterly meaningless, means everything that you do for the most part matters. It's somewhat of a weird turn in that sense. But that's not the talk I'm going to have today. That talk kind of got pushed in the back burner just by events that was going on online and what's going on in real life. I look at the left. And hey, the left is a murky area. Anything that anybody calling themselves is somewhat of a murky area, right? So the left. Whether that's an independent, whether that's a curious Trumpster, whatever, whoever. If you found yourself to this particular page, you found yourself to this particular content, welcome to the left. The majority of us agree on like 99% of items. 99% of the things that comes up. We will each agree. We will say, yes, this is something that I absolutely agree with. From a humanist perspective, that's usually the way the left looks at things. Why is there the minutia? Why is there the drama? That's what I don't understand. That's the part I fundamentally miss. I started this channel maybe, 6 months ago. And going with this thing of big ideas. Yes, my wife says I'm a little bit overly optimistic, and that when I say things, I cast them in epic ways. Yes, I don't necessarily see myself that way. It may come across that way. But the channel was set up in a way of saying, all right, there's certain ideas that I want to get into the public, and I want to bitch and moan and scream and try to get those ideas into the public. Big ideas. Ideas that change society in a way. After the election, and even during the election, we were inundated with minutia, with dramas. Mainstream media, for the most part, plays ridiculousness, a narrative that's not absolute, that's not true at all, actually. And they repeat that narrative over and over again. Whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, you get your own particular narrative from MSNBC or Fox. CNN gives you somewhere in the middle, but ultimately all of you people are on the same page, and all of you are arguing about pretty much the same thing. The left has its own thing, man. I'm sorry. Look, you have to let people be who they are. Meaning, if somebody needs to say something a particular way, sometimes they need to say something a particular way. You're not always going to like it. And I mean that in writing, and I also even mean that in word. There's a certain level of political correctness that we need. That's true. But taking it to the level of got yous, I'm sorry, that's petty. That's petty. They're real things. 99% of the things that come up, we'd agree. Why this? Why is this the conversation? Why is this the conversation? And look, I'm not necessarily saying this is just, it's not aimed. I'm talking about the entirety of the left. And it's not everybody who kind of engages in that stuff. But fuck, man. It's not that I get pulled in it. I don't necessarily care. I don't even necessarily pay attention to it, like, closely. I pay attention to it to the degree that, well, look, people tweet me all day, in which case I'm seeing these little Twitter battles, these people going after each other. If you go after somebody, the person is pretty much going to hit back. It's just human nature. Meaning you have a perpetual conflict on Twitter. On Twitter. The indignity of grown people having conflicts on Twitter. Alright, fair enough. That's the world you're existing in. I'm just saying, certainly there are bigger issues. Certainly there are bigger issues. I hear people on Twitter saying, hey, they should have a debate. They should hash it out in a debate. What are you hashing out? You're hashing out ridiculousness. Somebody said something in an article. The people didn't even go to what she was actually saying in the article. They went exactly to the way she was saying it to go with a gotcha. 99% of the shit that we deal with, we agree. Is this the level of debate? That's all I'm saying. Look, I don't care who started it. I don't. It's fucking ridiculous. Get over yourselves. Be adults. People are going to have opinions that you don't necessarily like. You're going to have to work with people who, yes, have opinions that you don't necessarily like and who have said horrible and disgusting things. Nobody's saying hug them. Nobody's saying love them. That's not what's up for debate. That's not even what's on the table. I'm making the point. 99% of the shit that you deal with, we agree. That's the point I'm making. Is this really the level of debate to which we need to have? Are there larger issues that are looming that should occupy our attention? Is that not a fair question? Here's one. 2020. The 2020 election. Every progressive, every independent, every Trumpster that in some way is curious or bi-curious and is leaning in a particular direction based upon something he may have heard. That's your time to change this. Is this the level of debate? In 2020, you have a weakened Democratic Party that can barely make cash. And being able to barely make cash, they are forced, capitulated to certain ideas. Single payer healthcare is now on the table, of course, what they say. The goal is not to get quote-unquote single-payer healthcare at that point. The goal is to change the goddamn party. It's to change the soul of the party. This is not tiddlywinks. The party itself is absolutely weak. And in 2020, all hell is going to break loose in regards to what's going to take place and who's going to win. That should be the focus. That should be the specific focus. If this is one of those things where just because it's between elections, people don't have shit to do, so they just make shit up on Twitter to complain about. I don't know. I don't particularly care. I care to the degree that I want people to be focused on a very specific point. In 2020, all hell will break loose. The goal is not to have a Democrat take that office. In fact, the goal is if a Democrat accedes to the general election and make his ass lose. The goal is to win, not to draw. You win when you either get them to capitulate in regards to the policies and so forth that these guys put up, or you just win in the sense of getting your person in that office. The person in that office by themselves can't necessarily change anything, but the goal is to have a movement behind them. That's the goal. The goal is to spread certain ideas into society, to hit those ideas over, constantly, over and over and over, to get society to kind of say, hey, what the fuck are these new ideas that these guys are talking about? But our level of debate is Johnston. For 4 fucking days. That's been the level of debate. Caitlin Johnson said somebody's name that we don't like. She's a bad person now. She's a white supremacist. She's a racist. She's a horrible, horrible person. This is the level of debate on the left. I'm sorry, man. This is fucking ridiculous. This is fucking ridiculous. This left, whatever it is, it's not going to be controlled by people who are these overly politically correct, overly sensitive. Fuck that. Fuck that. No. I've dealt with people, Trumpsters, who would say, I absolutely hate people telling me how I should supposed to believe, how I'm supposed to act. Fair enough. Is that person racist for saying that? I don't think he's racist for saying it. Do I think he may be somewhat acerbic in some of my own sensibilities? Yes, he may be. That doesn't make him racist. That doesn't make him racist. People will say things. People may behave in particular ways. It doesn't necessarily mean they're doing things. You're looking at things from a particular identity context. Not everybody is functioning from the same identity context that you're functioning from. So no, people are going to bump heads in those things. It doesn't necessarily mean they're doing it intentionally. And it doesn't mean they're racist. You don't like Chernovich. Whip the fucking do. I don't either. Get over it. 99% of the shit that we talk about, we agree. This is the level of debate on the left. 2020 is what you should be focused on. 2020 is the only thing that should be on your mind. 2020 and taking over that goddamn party is what you should be thinking about. A socialist nearly won that primary. And he would have won that primary had he not been cheated. A socialist. Coming back from starting with a 60% difference. Closed the gap. The man opened his mouth and people responded to what he said when he opened his mouth. The message of inclusion. The message of economic survivability at that point resonated. That's the message that should be going out. You should be espousing your values and getting people to look. You would never be able to get a politician to do what you want them to do by yourself. If you're looking back at something like the Civil Rights Movement, that was a push. You had a societal push in a very particular direction. And you had a president in that office who had the bully pulpit who was willing to get shit done. It is a tandem, meaning you need a movement to get shit done. You need to get this thing of singular focus. Singular focus. Fall in line. Fall in line. This can't be the level of debate. 2020 is a big fucking deal. And not just 2020. Right now. The things that are going on right now. They're voting to take away healthcare to millions of people right now. There's a quote-unquote votorama. The Republicans. Republican quartet will only vote for skinny repeal if assured it won't become law. Understand what they're saying. We will vote on this horrible, horrible bill that completely disfigures Obamacare and that will take away health care to millions of people. We will vote on this, providing that they can provide us proof that it won't become law. We'll pass it. If they promise to not make this a law, then why the fuck are you passing it? Then why are you passing it? If you think that law is that bad where you need to make deals with the House that the House won't pass it, hey, we held up our end of the bargain in the Senate. We passed it because we knew that the House wouldn't pass it. This is fucking amazing. This is amazing. They're literally talking about taking health care away from millions of people. And they understand that the bill is so bad that they don't want it on their conscience to pass it. They were a dog chasing cars for 8 years. They finally caught the car and they don't know what to do with the car. They don't know what to do with the car. They full well understand that Obama broke the mold in regards to this idea of Americans having health care. If they strip it away from millions of people, they know they will suffer for it. That's the politics. That's what's going on. John McCain's unempathetic ass doesn't give a shit about what people think in regards or what happens to people losing their health care. He doesn't give a shit about murdering people abroad. So no, I don't believe he gives a shit about people not having their health care. What he cares about is them losing seats. He cares about a public that is immensely angry, being that their mom, their dad, their uncle lost health care. That's what he cares about. That's the thing that's That's the thing that they care about. That's the thing that they're worrying about. One sec. Yeah. That's the thing that they care about. I've never seen anything like this. These guys are supposed to go to Washington to represent their constituents. That's their job. That's their job. That's their literal philosophical job. I am going to represent the interests of the people who voted me into this office. They're voting on a bill to take away health care from millions of people in order to give tax cuts to other people who have massive amounts of cash already and who would not even notice the money that they're getting. They recognize that what they're doing is so ghastly, so horrible, that they don't want to do it. They want to do it because they don't necessarily want to be branded that they didn't hold up their end of the bargain and they didn't have the balls to kill Obamacare. They want to do that part, but they know they don't want the consequences. So they've put up this weird political position, this platypus of a position that makes no logical fucking sense of we'll pass this bill if they don't pass it, if they can promise that it won't become law. This is an amazing statement. It's an amazing statement. Is this representing the interests of the people who voted them in that office? It's taking away health care, voting, or representing the interests of the people who put them in that office. What is wrong with our politics? And is this the level of debate that's on the left? Is this the level of debate? That's what I'm getting at. All of this shit is going on in the real world. These are real things. These people are going to be hurt by the actions that these assholes are taking in Washington. You're playing political gotchas when the house is burning. The left needs to grow up. That's all I'm saying. It needs to grow up. And yes, I'm an arrogant as will be to say something like that. But I'm looking at this stuff for the past X number of months and for the past X number of days. A, I don't understand why people are behaving this way. B, it seems that there are far more important things than picking fights over these little chicken shit issues. And it seems like there's so much at stake in the next 4 years where we have a massive opportunity to get shit done. Literally, to drag this country to the left based purely upon the things that Trump has done in this office. And this is what we're talking about. That's all. It's just aggravating to me. This was supposed to be a happy, uplifting 420 thing. Fair enough. It may get that way at that point. I don't necessarily like this idea of people losing health care. Obamacare didn't go far enough. I will say, though, that stripping away health care from millions will wake people the fuck up. And it will be the dawn of single-payer health care in this country. I would write that down. I would put that shit on paper. I would put it on paper. So 46 minutes ago, Senate is now voting yet again. This round of votes includes Democratic attempts to shelve the bill. It is likely to fail. However, it marks the start of what will be a late night on Capitol Hill. Let's see. Yeah, they're talking about dinner time. The drama is building over what will happen in the House. The Guardian's Lauren Gambino can confirm that House Republicans will hold a meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, according to a senior GOP aide. Meanwhile, we expect a statement from Paul Ryan's office tonight. It's unclear on what he said earlier. He was told the Speaker will consult with House Republicans before making any decisions on health care. Let's see. Senators will now vote for the bill if assured it won't become law. Those are your congressmen. Those are the stupid idiots that are representing you in Washington. Those are the stupid idiots that are representing you in Washington. Don't tell me to cry for John McCain. Don't. I'm sorry. I heard these people saying all these nice things about John McCain. John McCain is sitting up there trying to take people's health care when he himself is using magnificent health care that those voters are paying for. The same people that he's going to try to strip away theirs. It's fucking amazing to me. This country accepts the level to which this country accepts, meaning the living standards of this country is what they accept. It's a choice. It's a choice. In the same way that the country said, hey, we can have health care. Fuck yes, that's awesome. No, we don't want you to take away our health care. Everybody hates this bill that's coming up. The country could change in ideas also. You push the country forward when you pull this country to the left. Right now, the situation on Capitol Hill is that the skinny repeal, when that passed, it appears there is any chance on it becoming law. If it's sure that it will be junked in a conference committee after passage, the bill may receive support from a majority of senators. If you are confused, you should be. But this is American politics in 2017. Graham calls the skinny repeal a fraud. Graham was particularly scathing about the clean repeal, calling it a fraud, as well as a terrible policy and a horrible policy. If the skinny bill were to become law, Graham said, politically it would be the dumbest thing in history. Senator Ron Johnson. Now, you must understand, McCain doesn't like Donald Trump. Lindsey Graham doesn't like Donald Trump. Many of those other Republicans does not like Donald Trump. If you didn't have Trump in that office, if you had a Mike Pence, this would have slid through. He would not be here bashing this bill in this way. At the same token, they probably would have came up with something different. My point here is, this has nothing to do with what's best for the American people. This has nothing to do with research. This has nothing to do with science. This has nothing to do with anything that benefits the public. This is political theater. They're going to take away health care for millions of people purely because Donald Trump said he's going to take away Obamacare. That's why. There's no there to it. Republicans hate that Affordable Care Act, but at this point they know they can't just strip it away. That's the reality. They want to be able to give them those people tax cuts, and they want to take a chunk out of it. But they understand that the public hates this bill. And the public has warmed to some degree to Obamacare, particularly in contrast to this bill. The public has jumped all the way over to single-payer health care. And they're trying to weaken Obamacare. You can see the political problem here. They're in somewhat of a political thicket. The president, the reality show host, Donald Trump, wants them to get rid of it. He wants to win on the board. It has nothing to do with what's best for the American public. All of those Trump supporters that put him in that office are going to be hurt by the things that he's doing in that office. He doesn't care about you. The guy's a reality show host. He's only ever looked out for himself. Everything he's doing is for Trump. No, I don't continuously bash Trump. I don't necessarily see the point. Democrats are immensely problematic to me, and I'll still make the point that Republicans will never get elected if Democrats were actually Democrats. The issue in this country are Democrats. Yes, Republicans are fucking horrible. But your issue is Democrats. Is this the level of debate that's on the left? 2020. That's when you change things. That's when all the stupid shit that they're doing now gets rolled back. That's your opportunity. Not just the opportunity for the presidency. It's the opportunity for something more than that. If it was me, I'd argue that what the left should focus on is an agenda, a platform of sorts. It's like a manifesto. What do you want? What are you trying to accomplish? Be specific. Be extraordinarily specific. Go let your leftist heart fly. What do you actually want? What is the thing that you believe you can drag this country into? Focus yourself on those things. I'm going to release something. And yes, you can tell me go fuck myself. I'm going to release something. And in releasing something, bitch about it, moan about it, complain about it, pull it apart Tell me I'm a fucking idiot for having XYZ into it. Do your thing. Do your worst. But at the very least, you would be complaining about something that identifies yourself. How you delineate yourself from somebody else. Yeah, I get it. It's important. You want to be distinct. You believe that you yourself are right. 90% of the shit that we deal with, we agree. We agree. 99%. Can we just squash this level of debate? Can we just squash it? Like, not even squash it, like, after the fact. Before it even starts. If we're going to bitch about something, can we bitch about a platform? Can we bitch about the things that we actually want to accomplish? What do you want to do? What are you trying to accomplish? Where do you believe the country should go? How do you believe the country is going to get there? How do you deal with the economics part? How do you deal with getting the public to go along with you? That's the level of debate. That's what I argue should be the level of debate. You're trying to define yourself, to coalesce as something. That doesn't necessarily need to be a party. It just needs to be a core identity of sorts. Right now, all of us, for the most part, we call ourselves progressives. Yes, that's a sketchy term. I have no idea what it means. At least not in the context of how people see it. Each person sees things in the way they see things. I look at that to say progressive is XYZ. Somebody else adds a Y to it. Somebody else adds something else to it. It's slippery. I'm saying define yourself in specific terms. Don't allow the Democrats to be able to steal your identity just by saying, yes, I'm a progressive. No, make it mean something. If you are X, you have to be on the page of all these things. Those things can be bitched and moaned upon in order to come to some consensus on, hey, what is it that we want? But come on. Certainly that's a better argument to have. That's a larger argument to have. Then so-and-so said this, and it hurt my feelings. It hurt my feelings. I'm a snowflake. It hurt my feelings. Can we just man up a little bit? Cowboy up a little bit? Be a little bit more empathetic? Be a little bit quick to jump on somebody about something? Not even this need to, hey, I need to contact this person behind the scenes. Give people a little bit of leeway and accept that the person is not necessarily trying to be racist, hateful, or get on your nerves. You can just disagree. Call this shit a day. This is fucked up politics. But this is our politics. It can change, man. It can change. I'm just saying, Donald Trump is an immense opportunity. It's an opportunity that I damn sure don't want to waste. This can't be the level of debate. This can't be the level of debate and expect to get shit done. 99% of the stuff we agree on. These little ways in which we delineate ourselves. Look, even this thing of calling everybody a sellout. TYT. You would agree with 99% of the shit they come up with on TYT. You may dislike the fact that they're doing their coverage a particular way. You may dislike their politics on this. Fair enough. But you understand that 99% of the stuff, when it comes down to the vote, you guys are going to agree. The Sam Cedar thing. Same thing. 99% of the shit that you talk about, you'd agree. All of you guys are in the same sandbox, whether you believe it or not. And for whatever reason, you're trying to find ways to parse and delineate yourself into smaller and smaller sections. You're in the same sandbox, dude. If you agree with 99% of the stuff, you may call that person a sellout, but you're in the exact same sandbox as the guy who you're calling a sellout. You just disagree with something the person said. I'll leave it, man. I don't get the drama. I don't understand the drama. I don't understand why that drama exists. I don't understand with these digital warriors of sorts. These guys who always... I don't get it, man. I don't get it. It just seems the larger issues matter so much more. And for the first time in a very long time, we have an opportunity to actually affect the political cycle. Donald Trump is the weakest president we've ever had in this country. he has one foible after the next. He can't get shit done to save his life because he's so grotesque that people react to him in a way that pushes back instinctively. He wants to segregate the military. The military push back on him segregating the military. Good job, military. Good job. All right, so they don't have the votes for it, and they're terrified to do something about it. I want to show you what healthcare in America is like compared to everywhere else. I've been to other countries. You need to see how it is compared to everyone else. Let's see. How do I do this? This. Come on. This. Blam. All right. This is The Guardian. History of healthcare systems. Among the 35 OECD member countries, 32 now have introduced universal healthcare legislation that resembles the World Health Organization criteria. Germany, Norway, United Kingdom, Switzerland. Look at all these countries. United States is the only lame duck. You were the only citizenry that thought it was perfectly okay to be raped by insurance companies, to not have universal health care, to not come together and make sure that each and every person who lived in the richest country that's ever existed have access to health care, taking care of one another. That was off the table. Murdering people in other countries, that was not. For whatever reason, this particular population thought it was perfectly okay to let people die without health care and to let them deal with those things as rugged individuals. The rugged individuals thing was a political line. It was a gimmick. It got you to accept things that other countries and people in other countries just knew not to accept. So the United States still does not have universal health care. These are the countries. They're going through the countries and some information about the healthcare. I'll put this in a link. Under France's state-run equivalent of the UK's NHS, the majority of patients must pay the doctor or practitioner up front. The state then reimburses in part or in full. Workers make compulsory payments and state funds used to reimburse between 70 and 100% of the upfront fees. You know, notice, each country has a different way of doing it, but they do it anyway. They find a way to do it. And they're not necessarily just proclaiming, mandating that people get it. They actually create a system that allows those people to have access to healthcare. In those countries, no one would dare say anything about unraveling their healthcare system. Wouldn't do it. Politically, couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. The population loves it that much. In this country, we get Obamacare. And the idiots are out there saying that it's equivalent to slavery. To have some way of literally paying for your health care is equivalent to slavery. Now they're at the point of, wait, don't take that away. Don't take that away. Yes, they're going to take away your Obamacare. Maybe not. Maybe they're going to be too terrified to do it, but they're trying to. They're definitely trying to. Spending compared to life expectancy. This is the part that's interesting. Life expectancy in the United States is still lower than other developed countries, despite health funding increasing at a much faster pace. We pay 4 times as much as anywhere else in the world for health care. Our life expectancy is less than other developed nations. Well, that's interesting, right? It's less. Because even though we've paid 4 times as much, we still have millions of people who don't have health care. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. That's absolutely embarrassing. That's the level of existence that this country was willing to accept and is willing to accept. If the Republicans were actually looking out for their constituents, if the Democrats were actually looking out for their constituents, if it had anything to do with actual data, the technical stuff, the stuff where you're not necessarily so ideologically bent that you don't give a fuck about the people who you are representing and put you in that office. This is ideology. This has nothing to do with the actual reality of things. Single payer healthcare is the best way to go for healthcare. Get rid of these insurance companies who are trying to milk people for profits. Why do you think we pay 4 times as much as everywhere else? In this country, you try to make a profit off of people who are sick, a profit off of people who are ill, people who need things, people who are in need, who are in pain. You have predators. People in this capitalistic instinct trying to make a profit off of those people who are in need and who need help. Notice Iceland, Japan, Australia, Switzerland, all these countries for the most part are hovering around one another. Look at the United States by 2013. Now, if you notice, back in the 80s, it was somewhat close to the other nations. Healthcare spending in the country began to spike. As healthcare spending in the country began to spike, people could not afford healthcare. Millions of people did not have healthcare. Because those millions of people didn't have healthcare, those people were dying early. You have people in this country, thousands, every year, die because they don't have healthcare. Literally. What you're seeing in that life expectancy chart is that as the cost of healthcare went up, the capacity for people to pay for it went down. That's what you're seeing in that chart. Let's see. There we are. I wanted to show that chart. I wanted to show that chart because I want people to have some level of grasp of the con that's being played on you in this. It is a con job. You have a Cold War. In that Cold War, the United States will lie to its citizenry. The Soviet Union will lie to its citizenry. It allowed them to build up huge amount of weapons, and yeah, I'm pretty sure the weapons deals were fucking awesome, since you had this existential threat of the Soviet Union. In doing so, the United States would do certain things to the population. It would lie to the population. The Soviet Union would say, the United States is dropping these insects over here to eat our crops. It was bullshit. Didn't matter. They needed to get their population to aid another population. The United States would say similar things. Right now, we're in this area of McCarthyism. False McCarthyism, because Russia didn't hack us. Russia didn't hack anything. It's false McCarthyism. We need to get to the point where those type of cons can't be played. And lefty independent media has to be this voice of reason in this stuff. Because understand, they tied together this thing of the Soviet Union, that's communism. Rugged individualism is the capitalistic way. And you don't want to be a commie, do you? You don't want to be a socialist. Now, those were different things. They were tied together in that way. It was a short, sweet way of doing it. So medicine, socialized medicine, became looked at as being something communistic. It's a con job. It's a con job. I'm hoping that con job is breaking. And I still make the point that 2020 is your chance for substantial change. It really is. If you get the person you want in that position, in those positions, I'm talking about in all of these seats, house seats. If you get to the point where you can put pressure on the individuals who are in those offices, you can have substantial change in this country. Once you live up to your campaign promises, you get leeway on the other shit that you want to do. So yes, you're going to get a Green New Deal. Yes, you're going to get single payer healthcare. yes, you're going to get those things passed because those Democrats are either going to pass them or they're going to get voted out of office. You're talking about a movement at that point. I may be overly optimistic. That's possible. My wife says I am often. But that is your chance for greatness. I honestly believe it. I absolutely honestly believe it. Let's see. All right. Hey, you guys have any questions? Miss Thomas, you're needed. Miss Thomas is needed. She's she was really, really tired. Yeah, she was really tired. I couldn't get her to get involved. You know, I gotta be honest. I do think look, if Sanders runs, Sanders gets my vote. If Sanders, he's going to run as a Democrat. I don't think he's going to leave the party. I think part of what he's doing is this thing of the Trump option. Look, Donald Trump, bullshit, man. He's a search for this, the Trump option, basic health care for all, private insurance for everything else. Donald Trump said everybody was going to have health care. That's what he said when he was on the campaign. That's what he said when he was on the campaign. I have no faith that Donald Trump is going to pass anything. I don't give a shit what's in Breitbart. I don't. I have no trust in Breitbart magazine. I'm sorry. I don't know what basic health care means. I have no clue what that means. Each and every person in this country should have health care. Full stop. Full stop. There's no reason that the richest country on the planet can't give each and every person in this country health care. It is far cheaper. You have insurance companies, these leeches, that are literally trying to get 30% to give these guys millions of dollars off of your illness and injury. Obama kept them in the process. You have drug companies that are charging you ghastly amounts of money. Obama allowed them to essentially block Medicare from negotiating drug costs, allowing them to keep drug costs high. We pay massive amounts for healthcare. Constraining the cost should have been the overwhelming thing that took place in regards to healthcare, and making sure that each and every person had it. We still have millions of people without it. Oh yeah, I think Bernie's doing. Good point. I'm sorry. Mochex, you didn't finish your thought about where Bernie was doing. Bernie Sanders, I think Bernie Sanders is doing two things. I think he's trying to remain relevant, meaning I am towing a particular line. They're going to have me as outreach coordinator, so I am going to go out and I'm going to outreach, and I'm going to give each and every person my message that I am Bernie Sanders and I'm awesome. Those people are going to associate themselves with me, not necessarily the party. Now, that's not a crazy thing. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing to do. The part I hate is dealing with this other shit, talking about Russia and sanctions and everything else. But I honestly believe that that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to keep himself relevant and out in the public eye. And if it comes up at 2020, he's healthy and he's still feeling it, he's going to run. He's going to run. And he would have my vote. Sorry, but he did praise the Aussie Prime Minister for our health system a few months ago. I think it's what he's been pushing for. He hasn't been pushing for anything. He hasn't been pushing for anything. I'm sorry, dude. You're in a country with universal health care. This country does not have universal health care. You have people with thousands and thousands of dollars of hospital debt. People who die because they don't go to the hospital. These assholes are up there right now trying to take away healthcare from millions of people. I don't give a shit if he praised the Aussie system. He hasn't done shit here about healthcare at all. Only trying to undermine the healthcare that we have here. If you want to have something like an Aussie system, then amend the Obamacare. I have no idea what basic healthcare means, and I don't trust Donald Trump to do anything with healthcare. I don't trust the Republican Party to do anything with the healthcare. Full stop. Yeah, I don't know what Trump means at all. Trump doesn't know what Trump means. Queenmaker. You know, I would vote for Tulsi. Tulsi would have my vote in a heartbeat. I'd do it twice on Sundays. Love her. I know some people don't like her. It's some policy that she had for something else, but I like her. I like her war stance. She was able to hold her shape. Bernie would beat the pants off of Trump. You understand that Trump is the most unpopular politician in the history of this country? I'm sorry, dude. You're looking at him with rose-colored glasses, man. That guy, if you ran a ham sandwich against Donald Trump, that ham sandwich would be president right now. Donald Trump's only chance was that he had a Hillary Clinton. That's it. Iris Rude, do you think the incompatibility between tribalism and the left core values leave the left more vulnerable during these downturns? I think it's human beings have this thing for tribalism. But the left core values, see, I don't know what that part means. Like, to me, the left is this humanist perspective. People over profits. Even going so far as to say, being somewhat antagonistic towards this idea of profit, this idea of humanism, the belief in this idea of what it means to be a person, that the person has value, that the person is the thing that should have value. It's kind of what Immanuel Kant had that perspective. I have that perspective. I think that's the perspective of the left. Tribalism is just built into people. It's just built into us, man. I hate to say it. I don't necessarily like to think that these things are built into us. And maybe it's one of those things where it's bred into us just in the way we are. If there wasn't scarcity, meaning if everybody had the things that they needed, would it be that bad? I don't know if it would be as bad. I think some of this has to do with economics, fighting for resources. Yeah, I think some of this has to do with economics. It's like you're squeezing people, and these people are identifying with these groups. Also, you must understand, a lot of this stuff has to do with the historical context. You have people brought over, and a schism is created in society among race. Then that schism becomes even more ridiculous when it goes into, well, not more ridiculous, but political circles. Like, it gets, you know, it's almost like people continue to try to define themselves to things to lesser and lesser degrees, to closely align themselves with people who are only like them. I don't know how you break that. I don't know how you break it. But however you need to break it, you need to break it. Because you yourself siloed are not going to take any political power. Can superdelegates kill Bernie's 2020 prospects? I guess they could. But here's the thing. The Democrat is going to lose if they do that. They're going to lose again. Is the Democratic Party stupid enough to do it and lose? Maybe. I don't know. I think that would be a bad way for them to go, put it that way. To run the primary like they did last year, and then to run another primary where they're using the superdelegates thing right off the bat again in order to kind of throw that in on somebody else. Now the thing is, Last year, nobody knew who Sanders was. Everybody knows who Sanders is. He's the most popular politician in this country. Even with the superdelegates thing, yeah, it may be able to kill his chances. Their particular problem is, if they kill his chances in that way, they're going to lose the general election because progressives aren't going to vote for him. That's their problem. That's their problem. The problem is not so much they can't necessarily cheat their way in. The problem is they can't necessarily win the general election when there's reprisals against their candidate for what they did in the primaries. No, DNC hasn't changed. God knows if they do that, they're going to lose. Exactly. They were using to generate cash and influence to nominate Kay Harris. If they do that, they're going to lose. I'm just saying, they're going to lose. Progressives in mass is going to balk. You're going to have people that are just going to balk. They're not going to put up a corporate shield and win. I just don't believe it. Christy, let's put some money on this. Well, not money on it. Let's do a gentleman's bet. I'm sorry. Let's do a gentleman's bet. Let's do a gentleman's bet. If Bernie Sanders runs in 2020, Bernie Sanders will be president of the United States. That's my gentleman's bet. Bullshit, man. I agree. This is us and them and painting people like... I know, I agree. Understand why Democrats did that, though. They're trying to create a headwind about voting for somebody. Now, Trump, you got to be honest, man. The guy's a goddamn goblin. He comes across very particularly gross. And from a particular perspective, and I don't necessarily think the perspective that says Trump is racist is crazy. I'm sorry. I don't necessarily, yes, everybody has relative perspectives. You can have a particular perspective that think Donald Trump is okay in the things that he says. Good for you. I don't have that perspective. My perspective is different on this one. Now, that being said, everybody that's running or everybody that's voting for him, no, those people aren't racist. The Democratic Party wanted to paint those people that way in order to get a headwind to vote for him. It wanted to be like, oh, you're voting for Donald Trump, you're one of those people. That was the point. That was the goal. That is politics. It's shitty politics. It's identity politics. It's weaponized identity politics. But it's what they were doing for it. It was bullshit. It's total bullshit. Yeah, Gardner, I'm willing to bet you on that one. Let's do a gentleman's bet. A gentleman's bet. If he runs, he will win. I think you're understating the civil war that's going to take place in the Democratic primaries. I think you're vastly undertaking it. I really do. The primaries in the Democratic Party is where to look. Yes, yes, I do. Christy Brown, do I think he can win a primaries? Yes. I do. I honestly do. Kamala Harris will lose. She will lose. She can get all the money and superdelegate cash she wants. She'll lose. How he's slaying goblins. Now, look, the Biden thing is interesting. Jamie Howard against Biden. Now, look, the Biden thing is interesting. The thing from the Hill came out and said that for the most part, Bernie Sanders may run. And he said part of the reason that he was going to run is because he didn't want to let Biden take something that he believes he deserves. Fucking A. Fucking A. And he does deserve it. Do you understand the tenor of this country? Like, I know people have taken shots at him. I know people feel let down by him. How you feel about him, though? That's not coming from a bad place of hatred or anything else. That's coming from you feeling let down. You have feelings invested in that particular individual, and you feel that particular individual let you down. Your context is different than his context. Be somewhat empathetic in regards to the things that he's doing and the pressures that are on him. I understand he let you down. He let me down too to some degree. Fair enough. The man is the most popular politician in this country. If that man runs again in 2020, who's stopping him? Who's stopping them? If you're talking about they're going to use super delegates to kneecap them, then they're going to lose the general election. The point I'm making to you is all of this is boiling down to them not having the capacity to win the general election if they do anything that upsets those particular people. That's why. That's all. That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That's why I believe he himself can win. That's what I think he can win. Bullshit, man. Jamal, you say he's a goblin, but he's repealed the TPP, negotiated ceasefire in Syria. There are some huge achievements that Democrats would not have done. Agreed. Agreed. And you've seen me do videos giving him credit for those. You've seen me do videos making the point that the Washington Post was attacking Donald Trump, and I thought they were being fucking assholes for attacking Donald Trump, and they weren't giving people the full context to the story. I gave full context to the story, and I gave Donald Trump massive amounts of credit for doing so. The day Donald Trump put a bullet in the TPP, I said, God damn it, good job, Donald Trump, for pulling a bullet in the TPP. I celebrate his successes. I celebrate the things that I like. If you've noticed, I am somewhat apolitical in this way. I take a perspective based upon what the person is doing, based upon my own value system. That's my tenor. I don't give a shit about the parties. I give nothing about the ideology. I don't care about your cultural leanings. I don't think those things are real. What are you actually doing that is affecting people? How does it affect people, human beings? What are you doing? Is it adversely affecting them or is it helping them? Killing the TPP is helping them. It's helping them. The ceasefire in Syria. Well, it's not even a ceasefire. It's taking those weapons out of Syria, essentially saying we are no longer going to start armed terrorists in Syria. Yes, I gave him praise for that. That does help people. And look, I know Assad is not a good guy, but certainly you realize we have nothing to do with that civil war. We need to stay out of it. The last president was putting money in the hands of terrorists to undermine that government in Syria. It prolonged a war. They killed hundreds of thousands of people in that war. That is against my value system. That is against my value system. I don't give a shit who's president. If that was Bernie Sanders, if that's Donald Trump, that's against my value system. I deal with each particular issue based upon how it goes against my value system. So yes, I give him credit for those. I give him credit for those. He's also trying to take away healthcare from millions of people. He's also trying to take away healthcare from millions of people. The tax cuts he's going to give is going to be atrocious. Not just the tax cuts, the destruction to the EPA, meaning our ecological health, the ripping away, the tepid changes in regards to economics, meaning the Dodd-Frank, the EPA, destroying the EPA. He's even trying to segregate the military, trying to keep Muslims out of the country. Are you shitting me? Are you telling me that the two accomplishments that he did here somehow matches all of those ghastly, horrible things that he's doing in that office? I may be somewhat balanced in how I go against both sides, but he's a horrible fucking person. I'm sorry. I see no redeeming qualities. Yes, I'm glad he did these things. He gets credit when he does those things. But there's a list of things that he's doing in that office and he's going to do in that office. You're not here. You don't have to suffer through it. And you're being somewhat light in regards to the things that he's doing to people in this particular country, including deporting people at a massive fucking rate. The number of civilians that he is murdering abroad are outstripping Obama's. Going so far as to take off the reins off the CIA so nobody would know how many people the CIA is murdering. That's the guy you're trumpeting. That's the guy you're trumpeting. If you're going to talk about him, be honest on both sides of the table. So yes, he has 2 on one side for good job, and the 30 other things for that's fucked up. Alicia Millington. Human beings learn and change on a regular basis. Introduce new mental stimulus, things happen. So I look at this stuff as a systemic approach. You're right. Each and everything you do, it rubs off on you. You bump into all of these things, all of these realities. They etch themselves on you. It's, you know, who you are is a function of what you went through. The things that you were exposed to. The hurts, the pains, the arguments, the things you're pissed off by, the feelings. There is some aspect of you that's there, but ultimately your society for the most part has shaped who you are. In a different society, you would be somewhat of a different person. There's nobody who can just say, I am a complete individual and I function on my own. You don't have free will. Your will is constrained by the things to which you're dealing with, things that are around you, where you came from, your environment. The point I'm making is, if you change the environment that people exist in, if people have their needs met, people will be different. People will be different. You would have a very different society in regards to crime and poverty and all this other stuff. All of these social ills that we have in our society are a response to our society. It's not inherent to human nature. That's the point I'm getting at. You're right. I need my wife. She usually does this. Like Miss Thomas is off the job today. Trump won't allow Obama's record of killing to stand. He wants hot war with Iran, which would be really ugly. That's true. That's true. He is fomenting a war with Iran. I mean, they're even talking openly about trying to like use some kind of undermining of that particular government, trying to like religious lines to create conflict. What are your thoughts on Clinton organ trade ring? Elizabeth Beck seems to freak out when she's asked about that. I know nothing about the Clinton organ trade ring. I have no clue, man. I have no clue on that one. A lot of my opposition is stuff that could happen. What do you think they're doing right now with the healthcare vote, dude? What do you think they're doing right now? Do you think that's could, or do you think that's is? Do you think that is? The murdering people abroad, that's an is. The ICE raids, the uptick in him dragging people out, that's an is. The stripping away the economics thing, that's an is. The increasing the drug laws, meaning increasing the amount of time people stay in prison, that's an is. That's right now. Jeff Sessions is doing those things right now. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, Paul disobedience. It's fucking ridiculous. It's insane. It's insane. Those sanctions are absolutely insane. They're trying to say that Russia hacked us. They have squat for evidence that Russia hacked us. And the information that came out recently said it was a leak, that it was not a hack. It was physically impossible for Russia to do it. It was physically impossible for Russia to do it. It depends what my definition of is. Are you glad Jordan Sheridan is reporting on Deborah Wasserman-Schultz's IT scandal? I have to be honest, ever since I've been doing my channel, I haven't had time to see other channels. I've been somewhat siloed on this. It's like I inhale content. So not working, I've been able to read more, and I've been able to kind of look at stuff more, brush up on history and stuff like that. I fucking enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. Losing a kidney is the best thing that could ever happen sometimes. It just gives you time to reflect and to heal and recover, and you can just kind of take the day a little bit. Yeah, man, I gotta bring you on, dude. I gotta bring you on. I think we'd have a fucking awesome conversation. Bullshit, man. Let me know when you can come on. We can't do it next week. My wife and I, it's our anniversary. It's her birthday and anniversary. So we got married last year in Iceland, in Reykjavik. Well, it's not in Reykjavik. It was just outside of Reykjavik. We have a wedding license that we can't read in a different language. It was awesome. How do you prep for a segment? It depends on the segment. There's some segments where I have a head full of steam that I just want to get it out, in which case I just sit down and talk. Those segments come far easier. It's this kind of emotional thing that you're getting out. It's cathartic. There are other segments where I have to actually think through and, kind of write it out. just because it becomes a little bit more complex. It just depends on the segment. It depends on the segment. It's covering up the organ trades. True, he's already. That's funny. You hurt my feelings, man. I'm sensitive about that. I'm joking. I'm teasing. I'm teasing. No, dude. No, man. No, dude. I need a couple of weeks to prepare. A couple of weeks to prepare my ass. Whatever. Whatever. It's just a conversation. It's just a conversation. Can we discuss gentrification? Yeah, what do you want to discuss about it? Well, I know, right? She needs to make some more shirts for the show. Oh, the cuteness. Happy birthday and anniversary. Yeah, I want to tell her. It's funny. I was like, hey, we can have it on my birthday. And she was like, we're not having that wedding on your birthday. You already think too highly of yourself. And so it ended up happening on August 2nd, on her birthday. Yeah, I'd love to hear him speak from his gut too. I think it'd be funny. I'm joking. I'm joking. God, no, I'm joking, man. I'm joking. I don't take that stuff seriously. George Bush repealed habeas corpus. That wasn't Obama. Clinton Foundation video. The Clinton Foundation is dirty, man. It is. Oh God, it's so dirty. It's so dirty. It's so dirty. Like when they were talking about the Podesta leaks, the thing that they should have looked at was the Clinton Foundation. One leak after the next. Bill Clinton taking all of this money, and all of a sudden, this particular thing goes through the State Department. Saudi Arabia gives all this money, and all of a sudden, Saudi Arabia gets weapons. Oh man, it's so dirty. And they're talking about emails, and you're like, are you missing the Clinton Foundation? How are you missing the Clinton Foundation? How are you missing that? It's like, how are you missing that? Talk about 2018. 2018 is interesting. You have a lot of like groups, brand new Congress, Justice Democrats. Are they worth their salt? 2018, in those primaries, are they worth their salt? That's going to be the question. No, it was George Bush. When George Bush, after 9/11, that was one of the things George Bush did. They murdered 9/11. Keith Olbermann has an awesome video on it on the day that they did it, where he's losing his shit. He's losing his shit. I would say look that video up. It's awesome. A profanity-laced tirade we can enjoy it. Oh man, I don't have a profanity-laced tirade. I'm not necessarily in a bad mood. I saw that thing when that cop beat that kid and it pissed me off, but mostly I'm good. I don't have, like, there's nothing that's bugging me where I can just lose my shit over. I hate the healthcare bill thing. I mean, that's probably as pissed off as I am about it, but what are better news sources? Real News Network. I love Real News Network. The consortium thing. Always check your sources. That's one of the key things. Is there a base source for something that the person is saying? What's another really good one? I love The Guardian. Love The Guardian. If you notice, I do a lot of articles from The Guardian. Truth Dig. Truth Dig is absolutely awesome. Robert Shear is a fucking awesome journalist. What's the guy's name? He's the guy who, it was like Watergate. I can't think of his name, but he's the one who, Seymour Hersh. Seymour Hersh is also an amazing one. There are guys out there who are really, really good. Really good. Yeah, Manchin is getting primary. Jamie Howard. He is. The woman name is, Swearengin. Paula Swearengin. West Virginia. I actually like her. I met her at the People's Summit. He is getting primary. She is going after his ass. Joe Manchin came on TYT. Do you honestly believe that Joe Manchin would have been on TYT if he full well believed that he had that thing in the bag? Now, either he's scared of her or he's scared of the Republican. One of them. But he thinks that his seat is up for grabs. He knows that that seat is vulnerable and he's trying to get progressives on his side. He dragged himself onto TYT. Yes, Joe Manchin is getting primary. He's getting primary. Zero Hedge is good also. Yeah. I did see Rod Ruler's tweet. It was an interesting tweet, right? it's a fuckfest. I mean, it really is. Like, it's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. We've been hacked. We've been hacked. Somebody hacked us. Russia hacked us. God damn it, Russia hacked us. Somebody needs to do something about Russia hacking us. They're fucking with us. They're hacking us. I was terrified. I'm down in Brazil. I was terrified. A foreign government was coming to get me. Hey, we need to turn those over to the FBI so we can look at them. No, I'm uncomfortable with that. I'm going to give this over to CrowdStrike. That's who I'm going to give it to, a discredited agency to look at it. Wait a minute, why don't you want to give it to the FBI? The FBI is an organization in a particular country that's supposed to look at those things. You're saying a foreign government has hacked you. We in the FBI need to take a look at those. Yeah, we're uncomfortable with that. That's okay. Give it to CrowdStrike. Then you have an IT staffer. That IT staffer is caught fleeing the country, trying to go to Pakistan of all places. He's trying to go to Pakistan. He's trying to get the fuck out of Dodge. Days before, the FBI confiscated smashed computers. This is getting interesting. Now, we find out that this particular guy is in some kind of smuggling ring where he's essentially trading all of this information. And he has access to all of this information, including Deborah Wasserman-Schultz's iPad address, meaning he had access to all those files. Whether it was Seth Rich that WikiLeaks keeps tweeting about and saying it wasn't Russia, we got it from another source, whether it was this particular guy selling information to other people, I don't know. Once that consortium news thing came out with all those veteran intelligence professionals who said, this is a leak, not a hack. It's physically impossible for it to have been a hack. The narrative that these guys have been going with is physically impossible. The speed at which it was transferred could not have been done remotely. That's fucking physics. The question becomes, why didn't the FBI, the NSA, and the other organization know that? Why was the New York Times, why did they have to retract saying 17 intelligence agencies when it wasn't 17 intelligence agencies? Why didn't those hand-picked agents who looked at that information didn't look at the actual forensic data? They could have easily seen that it wasn't Russia. Who manufactured data? Who manufactured data to go on the disk? Those are interesting questions. Those are damn interesting questions. Because understand, it's not so much that Russia hacked us. It's somebody manipulated information to make it look like it was Russia. Oh, that's a crime, dog. That's a crime. That's a very interesting crime. Who did it? It had to be something to do with the DNC. It is very peculiar to me that you wouldn't pass those servers over to the FBI. And now we find out that there's a guy who had access to the information. There's a guy who has access to the data that they're trying to say Russia. You have intelligence professionals that just blew a hole through the narrative that they themselves have been trying to proper or trying to push. The mainstream media has been lying for 7 goddamn months. 7 fucking months. They've been lying to the public. They've been priming the public with this Russia hysteria that Russia hacked us. You had Democrats screaming whether a hack that never took place equated to some kind of attack on our country, some kind of military attack. This is the level of debate that these fucking idiots were having. That's the level of debate. Now, if that's the level of debate where they're literally fomenting this war and everything else, does all that come to a head in this investigation with Deborah Wasserman-Schultz? That's the catch. That's the catch. Does it come to a head? All of those things hit home right there at that particular point, meaning that case is fucking insane. And if they're really doing an investigation and they find out something, you have an honest person, something, oh man, that's mind-blowing. So yeah, I saw his tweet. I did see his tweet, and I thought to myself, Yeah, I mean, this looks interesting to say the least. See where it goes. See where it goes. Opinion on secular talk. Cal Kalinske. I don't really have an opinion on him. I mean, yeah, I don't have an opinion on Cal. He loses his shit sometimes. That's true. He be flipping the fuck out. I saw him. He did a video where he flipped the fuck out. People were having a go at him about Justice Democrats. They were kind of, they were kind of ragging on him. And he lost it. He absolutely lost it. He went after sane progressive, in which case I got involved and was like, yeah, dude, you need to calm the fuck down. You're losing your shit. Yeah, he was losing it, man. He was losing it. Jimmy Dore. I love Jimmy Dore. I got to meet Jimmy Dore at the People's Summit. I got to do a quick interview with him. Yeah, I like him. I like him. I really do. He's, during the primaries, he took a lot of heat, man. He took a massive amount of heat. Really did. I mean, because he was on this thing of, yes, I'm not voting for her. Fuck that. You're not going to make me vote for her. I'm not voting for her. And he was feeling himself in the same way that all these other Bernie supporters were feeling themselves. You cheated my guy. I'm not going to turn around and vote for you after you cheated my guy. Yeah. Absolutely. Tim Black has been known to flip out from time to time. Yeah, I see. I see. I see. I feel you, man. I see. Just as Democrats are cooks of the left. You realize, though, that 99% of that stuff you would agree with. This is kind of my point. You were in their sandbox, dude. I get it, man. I get that there's associations that you don't necessarily like, but you do understand that 99% of the stuff that you Justice Democrats are going to put out, you're going to agree with. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, it does. It does. Joe was taking heat because you had all these people, Hillbots and whatnot, attacking the guy. You're not going to vote for my horrible candidate? You're not going to vote for my horrible candidate? It's her turn. You're being sexist. You're being sexist. You're not going to vote for my horrible candidate? You're a Bernie bro, dude. Yeah. Yeah. And he took it. But you can see when you're looking at the shows during the election, he was bristling. Like he was having a response. The people were having to go at him. He was pushing back at the people having to go at him. Yeah, I don't blame him. Will Hillary ever face justice? She should, man. She should. I did a video earlier where I said to myself, I was like, oh man, I'm uncomfortable with him going after Hillary Clinton on that. I saw Sane Progressive's video that day. And I reread the document. Lock her up. Lock her up. Honestly. It may not necessarily be her, but there should be an investigation into what took place in the primaries in regards to the DNC. Somebody forged documents to make it look like Russia hacked us. Was it had anything to do with Hillary Clinton? I don't know. I do know that Hillary Clinton screamed at the top of her lungs that Russia hacked us. So yes, that will be one of the places I look. She should be investigated. The Clinton Foundation should be investigated. What took place? Who's framing Russia should be investigated. Yes, some of these people should go to prison. There should be an investigation. Jeff Sessions, do your job. Do your job. Stop dicking around with stoners. Do your actual job. You actually have a case. This is not one of those things where you can recuse yourself from. Yes, you recuse yourself from the Donald Trump thing. Good. Good fucking A. Good job. Gold star for you on that. That's a good thing. That shows a certain level of integrity. You have a case on the Clinton Foundation. You have a case on whatever took place in the DNC. That does two things for you. This is why I think, look, he's a reality show host. Politically, Donald Trump, if you're listening, politically, Donald Trump, if it was me, if I was the person whispering in your ear, I would tell you, play up the document that came out showing that it was a leak and not a hack. You have a bully pulpit. I would be screaming it at the top of my lungs. I would be tweeting it. Every time I'm on the podium, I would be talking about it. It's a leak, not a hack. You as a president will drive the narrative of the story, meaning you will change that narrative. At the very least, have a contrary story to Russia, to leak, It blows a hole in the narrative of the media. Meaning for the last 7 months, the media has lied to the American public, and you yourself, Donald Trump, has been calling it fake news, and you have the opportunity to expose that it is fake news. What the fuck are you doing in that office? Do you have anybody that's a political strategist for you? This is the goal that you should do. Now look, I know you can't necessarily force Jeff Sessions to do it, but Jeff Sessions, you can't tell him to just look at the Hillary thing, because it's not really Hillary that you're looking at. You're looking at what took place in the primaries in regards to the DNC and who was trying to frame Russia, and why then the CIA, FBI were able to see that. It's perfectly clear in regards to forensics. You're the goddamn president of the United States. Even if Sessions is not looking into it, you change the narrative. You make it look like they're doing fake news. No, it wouldn't. Well, you're not. That's my point. You can't go after Hillary. No, your goal is not to go after Hillary. You can't just say, hey, make a case against Hillary Clinton. That looks fucked up. You can't do that. What you're doing is trying to understand why somebody is trying to frame Russia. That's what you're trying to do. You're blowing a hole through the narrative that they're making, saying that Russia hacked us. Right now, they're trying to pass sanctions that's going to limit the power of Trump to do anything about it. Think about that. If the Senate passes them with overwhelming numbers, if Donald Trump vetoes it, they're going to override his veto. They're making him inept. You need to blow a hole through the narrative. The entire premise of those sanctions is Russia hacked us. If you're Donald Trump, you're the president of the United States. If you get on a podium, if you scream at the top of your lungs, these intelligence professionals, these independent analysis of what took place, that it wasn't Russia. Are you telling me that they're not going to listen? Are you telling me that at the very least that story gets into the news and it challenges the narrative that they've put out? Are you telling me if you bring those intelligence professionals up and you talk to those guys, you look at the analysis, you have those guys out there stomping for you saying this is not Russia? You fundamentally changed the narrative of the story. You get across that you've been screaming that it's fake news, and for 7 months they've been talking about this shit. Are you the president of the United States or not? Are you the president or not? I know they've always lied, but this is particularly pernicious because they've been heavy-handed in attacking Donald Trump. And I don't like Donald Trump, but goddamn it, come on. There are other things in this world that assail the American populace than Donald Trump. Part of the reason that Donald Trump got in that office was because of the failure of the last president. Let's be honest. Let's keep this shit real. 95% of the wealth under Obama went to the top 1%. Think about that. You have 95 slices of pizza, or 100 slices of pizza. One guy takes 95 and tells the rest to go fuck yourself. That was under a Democratic president who's supposed to have been a progressive. You don't fundamentally understand the economic stress that these people are under, meaning all of us. You understand that these people are dying younger now, all of us in this country, particularly compared to the people in other countries. Part of that is economics. Part of that is the level of existence this country is willing to exist. Part of that is not recognizing that each and every one of us are vulnerable. Yes, you have a top 1% that's doing magnificently well, but the 99%, all of us, are vulnerable. There are things that we need to do in our particular society to take care of the people of our particular society, because all of us, to some degree, are vulnerable. Does a person have worth or not? Does a person have worth or not? And should that worth be affirmed in that particular country through the laws of that particular country? My vote on that is yes. A resounding yes. I don't understand why this is in... Look, everybody can make the meaning that they want to make. I base my meaning off of this. This is what I base my meaning off. I don't base my meaning off that in some theoretical sense. I base it off the point that I say I'm right. Yes, I say I'm right. That's arrogant. I say I'm right. The society that you want, if you want to get rid of crime, poverty, drug abuse, and all this other stuff, then yes, I'm right. Pulling this country to the left is the way to do it. This is the only way to do it. There is no right-wing solution to those things. Right-wingers live in a fantasy land that doesn't quite exist. People People respond to their environment in the same way as everything else. You put a flower in a bad situation, that flower is going to die. Yes, we're more complex, but we have things that we need. If we don't get those things, we exhibit aberrant behavior. The society that you have with 50% of the people in poverty, and you don't understand why those people act out. You don't understand how people at the top, when you're talking about the 1%, have brain issues. Meaning they get into their head this idea of more. Fuck everybody else. That's an illness. That's an illness. It should be called an illness. Call it what it is. You have plagues at the top, you have plagues at the bottom. And this is the society we get because of those plagues. This is our economic system. This is a system that values profits over people. I'm saying that's a fucked up system. I'm saying that if you want that to change, then yes, I am right. I'm right. Call it arrogant, but I'm right. The invisible hand, yeah. That's amazing to me. All right, Broken Carpenter. Have a good night, man. Yeah, vaping Rican. Yeah, Obama. First it was about hope and change, and then it became the lesser of two evils. Yeah, absolutely. He was a wolf in sheep's clothing. He really was. I mean, the guy came in running like FDR. It was his moment. It was his moment. The country voted in a black president. And from their standpoint, they were going to get a black president. That's all I'm saying. They thought this was going to be, holy shit, we're going to get change. We're going to get real change. And he essentially did exactly the George Bush thing. And you know what made it so bad? He should have prosecuted George Bush. If Obama would have prosecuted George Bush, Donald Trump would be far more constrained in the things that he's doing in office right now. George Bush killed 1 million people and said he lied this country into a war. Obama gave him a pass, essentially saying a president can do any fucking thing he wants, and there will be no consequences for the things that he does. That's essentially what took place. That's what Obama said. He had, I mean, look, either by actions or anything else, he essentially protected him. Goes in, protects Wall Street. Goes in, protects the medical industry. One thing after the next. Goes in, killing and murdering civilians by the thousands with drones. Giving all of this wealth to the top 1%. By the time he ran against Romney, there was no more hope and change. There was dull reality. And it was, look, this guy's a fucking maniac. Certainly you keep the devil you got. This guy's a fucking maniac. Do you really want this plutocrat in that office? And if you notice, each year the Republican got worse. He got worse and worse. Do you know why? Because the Democrat moved further to the right. Meaning the Republican who was running against him had to move further to the right. I was watching the inauguration. I was happy too. I was happy too. I had this feeling of, holy shit, a black man is president. That's how I felt. I don't have necessarily entanglements, but I do have a significant and intact racial identity. And seeing that man take that office, I had feelings about it. I had feelings about it. I went out there crying like Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson was weeping, man. He was weeping. The president doesn't, look, Jamal, with everything you just said, doesn't it become clear that the president doesn't have any power? They're being told what to do by the elites. The question is who the... Yes and no. That's a yes and a no. Who is your power base? Who is your power base? That's the question that you need to answer. In any particular situation. Right here, right now. I have, what, 3,500 subscribers. Those are my power base. That is my audience. When I say build your audience, I'm not necessarily saying do things in a particular direction. I'm saying that you as an individual, as you put whatever you have out into the world, there are going to be people who understand what you're putting out. Those people are your audience. They understand you. They get you. Particularly when they're seeing you consistently over and over and over again. They have a feel for who you are. That's your audience. Now, in the case of somebody else who's in power, let's call that audience his power base. Those are the people who are giving him the resources to get into that particular spot. In Bernie Sanders' case, Bernie Sanders didn't have elites pulling the strings. His power base was you and I. His power base was regular people. The people who were sending him those millions and millions of dollars was us. That's who he represented. The power base is going to be the people who are, for the most part, calling the shots. Or not necessarily calling the shots, but at the very least going to hold sway in how that person behaves. If they lose support, then they lose their position. So yes, in our particular situation, Bernie, we were his power base. He has different aims. Meaning Bernie Sanders can get on stage and say, the elites, the plutocrats, we got to get these guys off our backs. We need to stand up to the plutocrats, the bourgeois. He can do that. Tom Perez is going to set himself on fire and get the fuck out of Dodge if you ask Tom Perez any question where he has to say anything like that. Tom Perez's power base are the elites, the plutocrats. Bernie Sanders' power base is us. My point is, if you have somebody in that particular office that's supported by you, that's a different system. That bully pulpit is an FDR type thing. And yeah, you can't change things with that. Yes, presidents must decide to exercise his power. Yes. Yes. He needs to be FDR. I welcome their hatred. Love FDR, man. Yes, he saved capitalism, so in that particular sense. But it showed this country for the first time what a president can do. When a president was motivated to do it. It's a beautiful thing. He does too, Clifton. Yeah, me too. Me too. I would. Rob, I would vote for Bernie if he ran in 2020. The TPP did it for me. The TPP did it for me. Obama was important to me because he changed my political understanding. 180. 180. I began to become far, far clearer in regards to how I saw politics. I voted for Ralph Nader. So I was always to the left, even when I wasn't necessarily in politics, but the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that did it for me. That did it for me. When you're reading through it and you're reading like you're allowing companies to sue the United States government if we do something that adversely affects their fucking profits. I'm sorry this chemical's in your water, but you understand, I gotta make my profits. I gotta make my profits. It hurts me to my heart that your kid has cancer, but oh man, yes, I'm going to sue your government because I need to make my profits. The Australian governor, the Australian prime minister, said that the bill wasn't supposed to be released until 4 years after it was signed. They wasn't even going to show the population itself. If it wasn't for WikiLeaks, nobody would have known that fucking bill existed. He was going to sell this country down the river. Wholesale. There's more to it than the TPP. There's also another one like TTIP, dealing with banks and everything else, giving banks these amazing powers, trying to constrain governments from having universal health care and those type of services, social services. It's amazing. He was selling this country down the river. All those people who are these Obama supporters, those people are fucking mental. The TPP is the bellwether. If he's going to come out, look, your view of anybody is somewhat sketchy. You're never necessarily going to hit somebody right on the head in regards to how I understand that person. But there is objective reality. Meaning, if you give me a measuring stick to compare you to, then yes, I can come to some definition of who I think you are. So if you're telling me that this legislation is progressive and you trust you and all this other stuff, and I'm looking at it and saying this bill is allowing them to sue this United States government, you're allowing this tribunal, people that take this country to court, to a goddamn tribunal made up of corporate lawyers. That's what you want for this country, for this United States of America. You want to make us destroy the sovereignty of this country, Obama. That's what you want to do to this country. And you're telling me that this is progressive legislation. Then yes, I have a measuring stick to which to judge you by now, and I think you're a fucking asshole and you're a horrible president. That's what I think. That's what I think. That's exactly what I think. Yeah, I know. It's TISA, not TTIP. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, it's the TPP here, but right, it's TTIP in Europe. But yeah, TISA was the other one. That's the banking regulations bill. That thing is ghastly. It's absolutely horrible. Can you go on a quick rant about how much you love chess and why it's such an awesome game on a novice? Chess is life, man. Like, I know it sounds strange to say it's 64 squares, but you are in the space where you're... Think about unbridled warfare, where you don't have to worry about casualties. You don't have to worry about lives. None of that stuff. Things have a certain relative value, but you have one objective. Everybody on the game space fully understands the objective. Take the head off that goddamn king. And do whatever you need to do by hook or crook to do it within the guidelines of the game space. And then you say, have at it. It is pure, unadulterated skill and creativity in trying to figure out how you're going to get your hands around the king's throat. The catch is, it just finds this thing where it maps to life. It maps to life amazingly well. Anybody who plays the game, they find these things where they come into these situations. I'll give you an example. Trump and Russia. The Democrats scream in Russia, it's not just because they don't necessarily have anything to talk about themselves. It's also because they want to constrain Trump in that office. They think he's a maniac. They think he's a wild card. They want to find something that can constrain his hands to create a narrative that forces him, meaning it pins him in a sense. In chess, that's called a pin. It's called using something to put something on somebody in order to keep that person from moving. That's essentially what this is. They're essentially stopping him by using something else to pin him in, to constrain his behavior. You can take this other thing of, I don't know, man, it just maps to life. It's an awesome game. It's an awesome game. I love chess. It is a great way to explain politics, because that's essentially what those guys are doing. He's sticking it to this guy so he can get into this particular position. It's strategy. Strategy. Unfortunately, strategy has taken over the whole point of politics. These guys are supposed to be out there representing their base. These guys are out there just, you know, representing their goddamn self. It is. Buster Peak, you're right. It's terrifying. The only thing is forcing conflict with your nuclear power. And it's like the level of debate we're having on the left is that this person bothered me. They're talking about a goddamn nuclear war. Literally talking about a nuclear war. One that we'll lose. We'll lose, by the way. China would side with Russia and Iran and North Korea. We'd lose. We'd absolutely lose. I'm a great defender, but I lack sight. Kind of like my personality, Robert Perk. I love to attack. Mikhail Tal is my favorite chess player. And not just attack, it's so as I got older, I became better at squeezing the fuck out of somebody until you find somewhere to take their head off. At my peak, I mean, because I had gotten up to 2030 in chess, the United States Chess Federation. I had gotten up to 2300 on the Blitz game. I haven't played in a long time, so my rating dropped. But yeah, I was a beast. I was a beast. Watch out, Jamal. Debbie called you out for your chess analogies once. What do you mean she called me out? Call me out how? What do you mean call me out? No, Resistance TV, that's true. That's true. Everybody loses. My concern is that back in World War II, not World War II, back during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Khrushchev, Soviet Union, was going back and forth with Kennedy. Now, Kennedy was trying to undermine Cuba. Cuba freaked out. And like anybody else who's trying to maintain themselves, they got a weapon. They got a lot of weapons. They got missiles from the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union wants to do it because it allows missiles to be in striking range of the United States. Cuba wants to do it because it protects Cuba. Now, the United States at this point, this is intolerable. You're not going to have your missiles on our border. They get to the point where they're blockading ships now. Anything that takes place is a nuclear war at that point. Anything that takes place is a nuclear war. Meaning anybody that pops off, anybody that strikes anybody else, anything that takes place is a nuclear war. Those people went home that night thinking that this is the end of the world. Literally. Khrushchev sends a letter, sends a dispatch. The White House gets it. The letter is panicky, he's freaking the fuck out. And what started off as pure posturing, pure politics, ended up with people being terrified that it was going to be a nuclear war. Immediately after that letter was sent, another letter was sent. This letter wasn't gushy and scary. This letter was hardcore. And this letter was aiming for war. This was the hardliners. Khrushchev has exited the building. This is the hardliners. These guys aren't taking any shit and they're not backing down. They don't want to look weak in front of their populace. Kennedy made the choice. Let's take the first one and say fuck the second one. Let's pretend the second one didn't even exist. And that's what they did. And as they started the task of de-escalating, they were able to make deals in order to get those weapons out of Cuba. Now here's the catch. Kennedy talked to one of the previous presidents. He says, look, do you think Khrushchev would do it? Do you think he's joking? Do you think he's, bluffing? Khrushchev, yeah, he was posturing at a certain point. The president told Kennedy, he's bluffing, he's not going to do it. He had the steady ear of a president telling him, no, he's not going to do it. He's not going to do it. There's no way he'll do it. That president was wrong. That president was fucking wrong. Khrushchev had already gave the order that if the United States struck to launch those missiles, it was going to be a nuclear war. It was baked into the cake. Khrushchev didn't have to give a second order. The order was, if they strike, those missiles were already operational. Launch. This is what this stuff gets into. This is my point. Hillary Clinton gets in office and Hillary Clinton puts missiles in Syria. You're in a nuclear war situation. Donald Trump, to some degree, is inching his way, but at the very least, he stopped arming terrorists in the other country, undermining Syria. Those weapons that we were giving were shooting at Syrian and Russian soldiers. This is not a proxy war we should be playing with. We shouldn't have anything to do with that conflict. And we need to de-escalate with Russia and having this talk about sanctions and everything else. It's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. Oh, that's fine. I still love her. She's awesome. I still love her. She's awesome. She can be intense, but she's awesome. Yeah, I heard that. He's putting some of those provisions in NAFTA. The thing is, NAFTA already had some of those provisions. We had this issue with, I think it was tuna fish nets. And we were taken to court by Mexico because Mexico said it was unfair advantage that the United States was using those particular tuna fish nets. We had to change the laws in this country to appease them. Is that what you want? Do you want your law subordinate to a foreign power? That's the question. Trump came out saying, I'm gonna take away NAFTA. He didn't take away NAFTA. He didn't do shit to NAFTA. He failed on that promise. No, they didn't want a war, but the hardliners did. The United States military wanted that war. That's what I'm trying to make the point of. These weak milquetoast presidents, you have a weak president like Obama, and the military generals tells him something. Do you think he's going to push him down? Kennedy was strong enough to back that guy down. That's the difference between those things. The military wanted to strike. The military was pushing them consistently. We need to strike. We need to strike. We could take out most of Russia. We just lose our eastern seaboard. They were looking at this as numbers. Kennedy and Khrushchev didn't want to go there. But do you honestly believe that Trump is to the caliber of Kennedy in regards to dealing with issues of state and foreign policy? That should terrify you. It should terrify you. It is. And I agree with Obama on that deal. I agree with Obama on that deal, the nuclear deal. And look, this Iran thing, man. We topple their government. Do you understand that? We topple the Iranian government. If Iran is pissed at us, Iran has a goddamn reason to be pissed at us. We toppled their government. The CIA with Britain. They didn't like the fact that they wanted the revenue from the oil. It's their oil. They wanted to use the revenue for the oil for the people of their country. They had a secular government. The United States, in coordination with the CIA, undermined that particular government and put in a strongman. Jimmy Carter was talking about how awesome this particular strongman was. He was a fucking murderer and a torturer. And the United States put him in there as a puppet dictator. He was toppled. As he was toppled, a religious zealot took over. So now they're under religious rule. The consequences of that base from our actions in Iran. That's our fault. That's our fault. And we've consistently tried to undermine and take shots at that particular government. Constantly, consistently. That's on us. It is atrocious and embarrassing that Bernie Sanders is going to go out there and say Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Even if you make the case that Russia has something to do with hacking our elections, why the fuck is Iran and North Korea in the sanctions list? This is amazing. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. How old are you, Jamal? I was born in 1966. My parents both loved Kennedy, even though my dad is Republican and my mom's a Democrat. Chris Bailey. I have a birthday, August 31st. I will be 40. I am turning the big 40. Yeah, I'm turning the big 40. Yes. Vape and Rican. Yes. General Clark, 7 country. Yes. Yes. I saw that. That, what is it called? The plan to revitalize America. The plan to rebuff America, something. It was that Republican neocon thing that they put out. Yeah, but Kennedy was going to get us out of Vietnam. LBJ won't have it. After Kennedy was shot, LBJ ramped up in Vietnam. Democrats are Republicans. They're the same thing. They're two sides of the same coin. Ultimately, they both agree of the system and the way it is. They have no issue with the way the system at all. They agree with the system the way it is. We fuck each country we touch. That's embarrassing, man. I'm sorry, it's embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. We spend $1 trillion on the military murdering people abroad. Do you know that? We need to cut that in half and use that other half for us. We need to use it for us. If you're going to use this as some kind of jobs program, then actually just make it a jobs program. Use it to build up this particular country. You don't need to use that to build a bullet, to build a bomb, to murder people. Your behavior, whether you realize it or not, the world we get is based on our behavior. I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds stupid. I know it sounds somewhat simplistic and childish. But the things that we do have consequences. Things that we do to one another have consequences. The things we do to other countries have consequences. Stated while we're there. I'll check it out, Rob. I'll check it out. We do give them crazy money. We give them a shitload of money. When they have those things where they're going in and they're murdering Palestinians, it literally, people in boxed in apartheid, and they would drop dumb bombs. They would drop these bombs on their houses. They would murder these people wholesale using our weapons and the money that we give them. Billions of dollars. The people who they're fighting have squat. They call it a war. I've yet to know a war where they count the number of rockets that somebody fired. And if you can count the number of rockets somebody firing, certainly they don't have many weapons. The fact that you can count it is somewhat ridiculous. You have somebody with overwhelming firepower. It's not a war. It's murder. It's murder. I know. Gardner, Israel, our stronghold in the Middle East. I know. I know. They do disgusting things for us, I know. We shouldn't give them anything. Yeah, we shouldn't give them anything. They're doing quite well. They'll be okay. They will be okay. Guys, I want to close on a point. I want to close on a point. We're lefties. We're on the left. Whatever you call it. Whatever you call that is. And I know that's somewhat sketchy. I know that's somewhat nebulous. Maybe even somewhat esoteric. But we're on the left. If you're a curious Trumpster, if you're a curious independent, however you define yourself, I don't care how you define yourself, but if you're here, you're listening, and you say, holy shit, I like the shit that this guy is saying, then understand that we agree on most things. When you look out at the people in the country, you may have people who dislike certain things about you, who don't necessarily know anything about you. But believe it or not, when you look at issue by issue, you agree on most things. There's a Venn diagram of things that we agree with in this country. Those things are not articulated into Washington at all. They're not there. You have to ask yourself, why? Why is the question? Even from the standpoint of us being on the left, the level of debate that we have on the left sometimes is petty and childish and ridiculous. It's mind-numbing. They are out there having a vote-a-rama in order to take away health care from millions of people. Now, literally, in the real world, that's what they're doing. We agree on 99% of things that we talk about. I understand this need to sometimes delineate yourself from other people, but you understand, even if you're talking about TYT, Sam Cedar, any of those people who you yourself want to call sellouts, you agree on 99% of most things. You may find one or two things to pick a point over and try to debate about, and that's fine. But I've been looking at people on Twitter, these Twitter warriors, talking about a debate between Dixon and H.A. Goodman and Tim Black. Over what? This is ridiculousness. This is ridiculousness. Certainly there are better things to do. Do we really need to have pugnacious back and forth over each and every little disagreement? We agree on 99% of things. Yes, I'm ending it the way that I started because I kind of want to nail this home. If we agree on most things, if 99% of the things that we agree on, why are we having these conversations about Johnston? Why are we having these head bumps in regards to one army of sorts, or one person who calls himself an army, and these other random people who don't? Why? Certainly this doesn't matter. Certainly this not as important as them trying to take away your goddamn health care to millions of people in this country. Understand what I'm saying. There's a reality out there to things. You are quibbling over nothing. You're quibbling over nothing. You're looking for things to find. Just say, oh my God, they hurt my feelings about something. Oh, I'm a snowflake and my feelings are hurt about this thing. I didn't like the way they said this. I need to bitch and complain about it and completely miss the point that the person was trying to make. Is this the level of debate? We agree on 99% of the things that we talk about. 99%. I understand with taking shots at TYT when they went for Hillary. I agree with you. I was one of those people who was saying for the most part this thing was a thing between integrity and cowardice. I agree. But you also understand that even if you want to call them sellouts, 99% of the things you're going to agree with when it comes down to policy. You get that, right? You're still in the same sandbox, even though you're trying to delineate yourselves from all these people. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? What is your goal? What is your goal? Is there a higher level of debate that we should be having on the left? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to put out a document. The document is essentially it's going to be, this is a philosophical basis for the left, and this is the policy decisions that we should go for. If you want to bitch about something, bitch about that. Tear it apart. Call me an asshole. Say, oh my God, this is so in the wind. This guy is overly optimistic. This guy is something. Do that. Take shots at that. At the very least, that you'll be talking about something real and legitimate that deals along with who we are, what we stand for, the specifics of what we stand for. None of this nebulous shit about this guy's a progressive or this guy's not a progressive and nobody knows what the hell it means. Let's be specific. Let's be definitive in the things that we do and say. And let's not get so amped up over trivial pursuits. Own your feelings. Be a little bit more empathetic in regards to how you regard things. Not everybody is trying to be a racist. Just because you're looking at things from an identity context doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else is. God damn. That shouldn't have to be said. If you're on the left and you're in this leftist sandbox, certainly you give the guy the benefit of the doubt that they're not being racist or sexist. Shit, man. Why does that have to be said? Where's the empathy? Are you telling me that you don't fuck up? Man, I'm talking about people in general. All people on the left. In general. Are you telling me you don't fuck up? If you don't fuck up, then fair enough. You can have that anybody. I fuck up sometimes. I am unempathetic sometimes. I am wrong sometimes. I know this about myself. Because I know this about myself, I need to be somewhat empathetic into how I regard things. Even things that I don't particularly like. Even things that may bug me. I don't need to go ranting and bitching about it each and every time something like that takes place. Oh, it hurt my feelings. Oh, I need to say something because it hurt my feelings. 99% of the things you deal with, you agree. They're trying to take your goddamn healthcare from millions of people in this country. If you're going to focus on something that matters. 2020. All hell will break loose on 2020. If you are progressive, you should be organized as all hell and voting in unison. Either yes or no. That is a movement. That is something that changes things. That is political clout. That is people going down in a particular line, wholesale, saying yes or no to something that they themselves as a block choose to agree based upon the methods or based upon how they define themselves. Meaning if you're putting something up and you're bitching and moaning at it and you guys are having a go at it and you're trying to figure out, what are we? What do we represent? What can each of us say? Yes, I will put my hand behind this thing, that I would vote for this thing. And if this is not being represented, then I'm not going to vote for it. What is that thing? How do you get Trump supporters in on that particular thing? How do you get more and more people under that particular umbrella for those people to full well understand what you represent and be okay with it and be willing to put their hand on the line for it? Meaning, if the Democrats choose somebody that doesn't represent that interest, then you vote no, and those people fail. They fail. You get your way or they fail. That's the point I'm getting to you. 2020 is going to be a civil war in the Democratic Party. It's nothing to do with the Republican Party. Donald Trump is going to be the weakest president in the history of presidents. If you put a ham sandwich up against Donald Trump, that ham sandwich would be president of the United States. It just so happened he had Hillary Clinton. He had Hillary Clinton. The Democrats should have put up the ham sandwich. They should have put up the ham sandwich. If Tulsi Gabbard is going to run, Tulsi Gabbard is getting my vote. If Bernie Sanders runs, Bernie Sanders is getting my vote. If Nina Turner runs, Nina Turner is getting my vote. Nina Turner is not going to run for president. Tulsi, may. Elizabeth Warren, may. I don't know how I feel about Elizabeth Warren. If Bernie Sanders runs, he gets my vote. Anybody else can go fuck themselves. I'm okay with them losing. I'm okay with them losing one election after the next, until I feel my interest is being represented. I don't vote based on fear anymore. I vote based on who I want. I suggest you do the same if you want a different country. That's my suggestion to you. If we have to walk in the wilderness for a while to get what we want, then we walk in the wilderness. This country cannot remain the way it is. It's going to hit a rock, whether it's economic, whether it's ecological. We have a system that pretends that the outside universe and world doesn't exist. There is no environment. There is no real economic thing. These 50% of the people in this country, in the richest country on the planet that's in poverty, those people don't exist. They don't matter. They don't matter. This can't be the level of debate that's on the left. We are all in it together on the left. 99% of us are in agreement. Do you know how rare it is to get this coalesce of 99% of people agreeing on things? Stop finding little trivial pursuits to occupy your time and occupy your time on something that matters. These fuckers are trying to take away healthcare from millions of people. That should have been the shit you screaming at the top of your lungs. The idea that Russia didn't hack us and that it was a leak, not a hack, that's the shit that should have been tweeted to one congressman after the next all day. Should have been tweeted to Donald Trump, to Sessions, to everybody. Not these Twitter battles. This can't be the level of debate. This can't be the level of debate. 2020 is immensely important. It's immensely important. All right, it's 2 hours. Look, I'm just making this point. 2020 is immensely important. 2020 is going to be a civil war, and you need to define who we are before that. Not specifics. None of this, oh, I'm going to be a progressive too. No. Fuck that. Fuck that. No more being nebulous. No more being unclear. We're going to be specific in regards to what we are and what we represent. I'm trying to put the paper up. I'm trying to put it together. Bitch and moan and pull it apart and tell me, no, I don't like this. This is far to the left. This is far too right. Whatever. Whatever. But you'll be complaining about something about who you are and who you represent and what you want to represent and what you're willing, at a base minimum, to vote for and what you're willing to walk on. My point is, if you do that, you will get Trump supporters. You will get independents. Those people will know who you are because they can see what you stand for. Calling yourself a progressive to some degree silos yourself. Nobody knows what that means. It's sketchy. It's nebulous. They have this idea because they see it in Sanders. But be specific into what you're talking about. Leave this identity shit alone. Deal with economics. Deal with the things that real people need and matter. You get a larger percent of the country. You get a fulcrum. You get a new you get a new mainstream. You get a new politics. But yes, you're going to have to deal with people you don't necessarily like. And trust me, they don't necessarily like you telling them how they're supposed to talk in the same way that you don't necessarily like the way they talk. Deal with it. You don't have to like him. He doesn't have to like you. In the same thing of economics, this is an issue of class, not race. There's nothing that you can do, regardless of how politically correct you think you need people to be. You can't change who they are. You can't change what they think about you. You're trying to police their speech and police the things that they say. That's a fool's errand. Let them be who they be. If you're talking about a free society, then those people are free to be who they be. They're free to hate your guts. They don't need to understand you. I don't need you to understand me. Vice versa. When we go to the polls, don't fuck me in the polls. We're focusing on economics, and all of us are in economics together. This is a class struggle. This is not a race struggle. In the same way there was a civil rights movement, there is a class rights movement. That's the movement that you're trying to push forward. That's all I'm getting at. This can't be the level of debate that's on the left. And we have a coalesce around a particular message in order to take 2020. That's all I'm saying. 2020 is going to be a hell of a year. That's going to be when the country changes. And that's going to be the opportunity. Donald Trump presents us an amazing opportunity. Don't squander it by having this stupid petty battles. I'm talking in general to the left, Christy Brown. I'm talking in general to the left. The left, an aspect of the left, has a tendency to be hyperreactive, to be looking for something, to bitch and complain about, to be looking for these gotchas, these policing speech and all this other stuff. Yes, the SJWs. The SJWs. That's what I'm talking about. I'm saying you can't control people in this way, and you can't control their speech. They're going to recoil at it. These identity issues, you're not winning. Do you understand that the Democratic Party lost like 900 seats, like 1,000 seats? They focus on identity. That's not Russia. It's because they lost the identity politics battle. If you're going to have a conversation about identity, yes, you're going to lose. If you're going to have a conversation about what's in your wheelhouse, economics, you're going to win. You're going to win. All right, guys. It's 2 hours. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this. This was supposed to be this kind of philosophical thing. It was supposed to be 420. It started off as 420, turned into something else. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it turned out okay. I'll leave it at that. You guys have an awesome night. All right, guys. Bye-bye.